Hi, I'm Carlos Reyes from rcadvisor.com, and this is the flight test report of the first prototype of the Pickerel design, which is about a half a pound flying wing. And I actually I wasn't planning on flying today. The forecast was for 20-mile-an-hour winds, and that was just too much. But I looked at the weather report, and the winds were only like 5, and just looking out the window, they didn't look bad at all. So it was middle of the afternoon, but the wind wasn't that bad. So I went out, and yeah, pretty good conditions. The winds were coming and going, but they were not real strong. I mean, it would have been better without wind, but I really just wanted to see wanted to see what it was gonna do. So it was interesting. Let me get to the punchline first. Something I had worried about is how I was gonna launch this by myself, without a helper. I mean, there is a little bit of a keel here in the middle, and somebody could have launched it, underhanded, or maybe with two-handed, launched it that way. But I was by myself, and it's a little bit big to handle. So, but I given some thought to it before, and what I did, which worked, worked reasonably well, is that I was just grabbing it like this, and helping, turning the power and helping it along, and then getting my hand back down to the transmitter quickly, and it wasn't too bad. I mean, when there are problems with the airplane, it's always helpful to have somebody there to give you a hand, but that's the way it goes. So I did that. I gave it maybe half throttle, gave it at about eye level. I gave it a shove, and I had a little bit of up elevator, which was to be expected with a flying wing like this. And as soon as I let go, it looped. It did a loop within itself, and it came down, and it kind of pancaked onto the ground, which I was very surprised to see that. And I tried it a couple more times, and it did exactly the same thing. And of course, each time that I was doing this, I was giving it more and more down trim on the elevator. I mean, there really wasn't enough time for me to get my hand back down to the transmitter and give it down. So having somebody to help me would have been good. And then I said, okay, well, I wonder if, there's a little bit of play in the motor mount, which I was concerned about. And if the motor is coming up, it can be pushing down on the tail, and that could be causing it to go like that. So I said, okay, let me try a powered off glide. And I did, and the airplane did exactly the same thing. It went and it looped. So it had nothing to do with the motor. Then I did one final test, which is like, okay, already gave it as much down trim as I could. I'm gonna launch it. Instead of launching it a little bit up, I launched it a little bit down. And when I gave it some power, and as soon as I did that, it went and it nosed down, and it hit pretty hard. But this design, like as expected, is really strong. I mean, it hit hard on the nose a few times, and there was there's absolutely no damage to it. So that part of it definitely worked well. So anyway, given what I said in the last video, given everything that I just said was the problem with the airplane, and if you guess that it's tail heavy, you're right. And so I sat down and thought about it. I've had issues with airplanes needing down elevator, but the clincher was that test that I did when I launched it a little bit down, and it dove. And that's a classic. That's really the best way to tell that something is tail heavy, because if it just noses up, it could just be a trim problem. And most of the time you launch the airplane, it's gonna be nose up, so it's gonna have just a tendency to keep going in that direction. But if you have it a little bit nose down and then it ducks under, that's tail heaviness. Okay, So that's the way to know for sure whether it's tail heavy. And I thought about it, I knew it was tail heavy. Whenever I go to the field, I want to, it's like I built this. It's a bit of work to put it together. So I want to learn as much as possible about it. And I said, okay, I know it's too tail heavy. Can I fix that and see what else can I learn from this prototype? So I pulled out a couple of batteries from my flight pack, and their combined weight is 2.5 ounces. The airplane was 8.5, so that brought it to what, to 11? So that's pretty heavy. But I took both of these batteries, taped them to the nose, and did a few more launches, and all of a sudden, it was flying much better. Now, without these two batteries, I think I was like maybe 4.5. The CG was 4.5 inches too far back, which was huge, and I knew that that wasn't looking good. So with the two batteries, it's still tail heavy, but it's only like maybe inch, more like 1.5 inches. So it's still not good, but I wanted to see, was that gonna make it better? And it made it a lot better. And the airplane was still very pitch sensitive, again, sign of tail heaviness. But I learned a couple of things. I learned that I have to put the CG where the calculation said it belonged. I learned that it's really strong. I hit hard right here on the nose, and there's like nothing wrong with it. In fact, the only damage to the airplane after a bunch of crashes was that I did break one of the elevons, and I just put some tape on it, and it's good as new. And it's because it came and the whole airplane landed on the tail, and that's why it broke. And it was just at the corner, at one end of it. It seems to have enough power. Even with the two batteries there, it had enough power to fly. Not a ton of power. The wind, it wasn't real strong. It was a bit gusty, kind of coming and going. I'd say it actually, ignoring the pitch sensitivity, it's actually pretty stable. And I was concerned that it wouldn't have much lateral stability, and I thought it was fine. It was out of trim to the side, but it wasn't all over the place. It was really just kind of going. So I was very happy with that. Directional stability was excellent. And these rotors, it landed a few times on these rotors. They didn't break, so I'm pretty happy with that. I think, honestly, and this is a concern, going to the field. This just felt a little flimsy. It's probably good enough, but it could have been better. But there's one thing which I really hadn't started to think about it. But I'm used to having the propeller in the front and the tail in the back, and you have the prop blast hitting the tail. Well, in this design, I don't. I got the air going back. There might be a little bit of air coming this way, but the elevons are way outside that prop blast area. So bottom line was that when it was flying slowly, it was very sluggish to react, and that's just the nature of the design. Of course, the pitch sensitivity also, made it real tricky to control. I don't know. I think, the control surfaces might be okay. That you could argue they're a little marginal. I'm tempted to build the next one with balsa elevons just to give them more stiffness. But this whole area here, it's just a little bit flimsy. It's not terrible, and that's also why I extended this back. So I'm glad I did. It's okay. Could be better. But bottom line is it's still tail heavy after I added 2.5 ounces to the nose, which is just too much. I shouldn't have. I like the fact that it has great crash resistance, but I can't imagine. I can make the whole design, narrower this way. So to get the motor further forward, I can have less sweep, but then, I like the sweep for stability. So I am very, very tempted for the next one to have the motor on the nose. And I know that's going to just solve problems. I got to think ahead. You know, if I'm going to be scaling this up and scaling this down, I want a real bulletproof design. And you know, this is not it. This is not it. Strength wise, it was fine, but the balance point is all wrong. And you know, I mean, I can, you know, so maybe have a big notch here to move the motor forward. I'm going to try a test. You know, I'm going to take the motor out and move the battery and move the motor to see what that does to the CG, if I can get the CG to come out at the right spot. That would be interesting. But to have the motor on the nose, I probably need to build a new one. So that's what I'm thinking right now. I just got back from the field. I may get some more ideas later. But anyway, it was interesting. I think showed a lot of promise. But until I fix the CG problem, you know, it's not going to go anywhere. But I think once I fix the CG problem, I think it'll be a good flyer. In fact, it was a floater. You know, even with the two batteries there, it could fly really slowly, which is to be expected with the wing area. And also it was, you know, it really wasn't affected by gusts. You know, just because the wing is so thin, I think that helped with that. So it's meeting most of my design goals. Anyway, till next time, I have some thinking to do. I have some homework. I wanna, you know, try running some numbers, and I wanna try moving the motor, see how can I get the CG to be right. So until next time.